Being in Nebraska and being the brand that it is with the history that it has, every time we open up a live stream with Nebraska, there's about 5 different topics that are always going to be brought up by somebody. And one of them is going to be the transition from the Big 12 to the Big 10. So people are going to ask, is it a mistake, not a mistake? I'll ask it this way, because we've had several comments just tonight in the live chat addressing that. And we've talked about that a number of times. We've grilled Greg on that one. I'll ask it this way, Greg. Because you're a recruiting guy. So again, check out Greg's work on Husker Online. It's phenomenal keeping up with Nebraska football. So whether you're a Nebraska fan, certainly you need to be there. If you're just a college football fan that likes to keep up with the best programs and the ones that matter, then check it out as well. But I'll ask it this way. Being a recruiting guy, how did it change Nebraska's recruiting approach moving from the Big 12 to the Big 10?
Well, in a couple of ways that we've talked about before. Regionally, the areas of the country they recruit, and then the type of player that you're going to recruit. Obviously, Big Ten being a little bit more of a power conference, kind of a more grinded out conference than a more wide open, less defense in the Big 12. Everybody knows that. I think the biggest hit was the state of Texas as far as recruiting. That Nebraska would generally get 4 or 5 guys out of the state of Texas year in and year out. But not being in that conference and not playing teams from that state of Texas, kind of limits as many of those Texas kids that want to come and play in Nebraska, because they always like having that opportunity to go home and play in front of their friends and family a couple of times a year. So that was a big part of it. But Nebraska, obviously, in the middle of the country, has always had to recruit nationally. That's never changed, and that's kind of what they've always lived off of, is getting talent from far away to come and play, and you build your program around that 3-star type of an athlete, big hardworking, strong kids that with that kind of mentality. There's a little bit of different mentality when it comes to Midwestern kids as opposed to kids from the South or kids from the West Coast or kids from the East Coast. It's a little bit more of a blue collar kind of a mentality, where you see a lot more of I don't want to say linemen, but it kind of seems that way that a lot of your linemen come from the middle parts of the country. So yeah, it changed in a couple of respects that way. Nebraska prides themselves in recruiting. They got a 500-mile radius that they like to single out most of their numbers in their recruiting class coming from. But you always want to add as many as possible from your Floridas or your Californias. Georgia's a state where they've been hitting hard lately. But you really got to, when it all comes down to it, is that you're competing against the teams in your conference. So that's kind of where you have to kind of aim. You're trying to recruit against an Iowa, a Wisconsin, a Northwestern, obviously Ohio State, Michigan State. All these programs in Minnesota. They're all looking for these guys, and it's cutthroat. And Big 12 guys that they got their specific areas that they kind of recruit a little bit heavier. So yeah, you're not competing against those Texases and your Oklahomas anymore for a lot of those kids from that kind of a region. So yeah, it's changed things that way as well. So you can look at it several different ways.